only time when the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court will preside. It is necessary to say that the Senate President shall decide during all the time. Presiding Officer, Mr. Davide, Mr. Presiding Officer, I precisely presented this because we had a distinction when it comes to the Chief Justice Supreme Court. But with that clarification, that in all other cases, it should be the President of the Senate who shall preside, I withdraw my amendment. So the spirit as well as the letter is followed. The spirit of the Constitution is that it is the Senate President who will preside. This is not an ordinary statement, dictum, or it was not a capricious statement in the discussion. Precisely because the Senate President is elected by the majority. I want to avoid that this impeachment trial will be declared null and void. I want to avoid walkouts. I want to avoid any delays, Mr. President. The Senate President is more than capable. He said he is willing. He said he is ready. He has been in many situations in his life that people say you cannot do it, but he is done well. He has studied. So what's the issue? Why do we have to vote for a presiding officer, Mr. President? Why can't we follow the Constitution? So the point of order, Mr. Will we say that baliwala na yung pre-trial brief at bahala na si Batman? So, Mr. President, I thought that's why we have the rules. Because when we have the rules, it dictates fair play. And the rule says it is the Senate President who will preside. So if now we're not going to follow the rules, anong pinag-uusapan natin patas? Anong pinag-uusapan natin due process? Anong pinag-uusapan natin na fairness? It is who we chose as Senate President is a political. So we made our case doon na we would have a more fair. You made your case, you got the majority. Now you got the majority, we will give you all the support, Mr. President. But we have to follow the Constitution. We cannot have a trial where we do not follow the Constitution, Mr. President. I think pinaka-basic po yun.
Mr. President, the good gentleman from Taguig has brought this matter before the Supreme Court. And we agree with the point earlier raised by the Senate President. This matter should be either discussed in the Senate in plenary as a legislative body, or if he has questions which may in fact turn out to be valid, he has brought this matter before the Supreme Court. And therefore, this impeachment court is not the venue for this debate, Mr. President. If there is anyone who is out of order, with due respect, I think the proper process is the matter is pending before the Supreme Court. There is no temporary restraining order. There was a request for a status quo ante order. It was not granted. And therefore, the presumption of regularity behooves us as an impeachment court to proceed. And finally, Mr. President, allow me to reiterate, the point of order is improper. In fact, the debate on this matter here in the impeachment court is out of order, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's not an Ateneo UP issue, but always happy to stand before our colleagues and share our experience in the UP College of Law. I was prepared to address this to all our members of the bar in the Senate, but since it is Senator Kiko, my schoolmate, my teammate actually in the UP Volleyball Varsity team who stood up, I'll also specifically address it to Senator Kiko. So dear Senator Kiko and our colleagues in the majority, knowing that you have members in the majority that are lawyers, and for those who are not lawyers, you definitely have consultants who are lawyers. Wala naman siguro ni isang senador dito na walang consultant na abogado. Kahit ako abogado, ang dami ko hong staff na abogado din. Why? Because these are legal issues. We need to talk to the experts. Kung pag-uusapan natin ang mental health, physical health ng Vice President, then of course we will not listen to lawyers. We will listen to doctors, di ba? So this is a legal issue. Let's hear what the lawyers have to say. But let me just quote, because I know the Senate President doesn't have time to call on all the lawyers. So if you ask your lawyers in your staff, I'm sure nag-abala sila to look at the constitutional records, to look at the journal. I'm sure. And if they did not, please take your cell phone now and text your staff. What does the constitutional journal, the records of the debate show? Sinabi na po ni Senator Alan Cayetano, you can question him, you can doubt him. As yun nung nag-i-interpolate or nag-a-amend, ay papa-amend ko kasi hindi maliwanag or I want to improve it. Pero kung nagkaintindihan naman, okay na. Eh yun nga yung binasa, tanungin nyo naman po yung staff nyo. Or let's pause, let's all get a copy. Let's show it. Because this is the foundation of this trial na tama yung nakaupong presiding officer. So that's my first point. Mag-abala naman tayo. Read it yourself, ask your staff to print a copy. In fact, on that note, may I ask Senator Alan's staff to print a copy and give it to all our colleagues. Mabilis lang yan, hindi na yan mapapatagalan. Show it. We can take judicial notice naman po siguro of it. Siguro naman, alam na natin ang ibig sabihin ng judicial notice. You can go to the actual records. Nandito na makakuha naman natin yun kung pagdududahan nyo yung ipapaprint ko. So that's my first point. My second point, Mr. President, is addressed to His Honor. If His Honor will insist that we have to call a regular session, we have to be in session to amend the impeachment rules, eh di tawagan niyo po ang Malacanang. Nagpa-special session naman po siya, di ba, with all due respect, to pass the National Orchid Law. To pass, what else? Ano, tatlo yun eh. Oo nga, yun nga, yung waling-waling as National Orchid, ano pa yung dalawa? No, I know, I'm not questioning it. I'm saying that there was a special session called to pass 3 laws. Naalala ko yung waling-waling because I love it. This is important. O ano pa yung dalawa? Unfortunately, hindi ko na maalala. Dalawang naturalization. Sports-minded po tayo. Love po natin yun. Nagkaroon ba ng laban between now and July para mag-special session tayo para doon? Hindi ko alam. But in any case, ito importante ito, di ba? Eh di kung pa-i-insist nyo na yung impeachment amendment na yan kailangan gawin ng special session, eh, papatawag tayo ng special session. Mukha namang very supportive naman ang Malacanang sa majority. Di ho ba? Pero I take the position that we are in impeachment court. We are already in impeachment court. Therefore, the amendments must happen here. Medyo common sense din naman po yan. I rest my case. Yun lang po. But as soon as the copies come, I will give it to you. Colleagues, look at it. Huwag tayong majority-minority botohan. Ayusin natin yung pagboboto natin dahil pinapanood tayo, pinapaniwalaan tayo, at umaasa sa atin ang taong bayan. Maraming salamat po.
Once again, it is, again, before the chair rules, let me acknowledge a former Senate President, Senator Tito Soto.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tama-tama yung sinabi ng distinguished lady from Taguig. Tanungin daw yung mga legal staff. Binigay nga sa akin ng legal staff ko, eksakto ganito eh. Article 11, Section 6, page 154. Constitution is silent regarding presiding officer of Senate impeachment. However, the Constitution expressly provides that the Chief Justice will preside if President is on trial. O ngayon, yung mga graduate ng Ateneo at saka ng mga UP, ito ngayon yung legal maxim. Expressio unius et exclusio alterius. In other words, the express mention of one thing is the exclusion of another. Palagay ko, naintindihan nyo lahat ganyan. Itong akin, sa publiko yung sa akin. Ang sinasabi ng publiko ngayon, nanonood sa atin, dapat you should not resort in too much technicalities kasi ang public interest ang iniisip nila rito. They want to expedite the proceedings. They want the trial, not rules. They're interested in the trial, not rules. In the interest of justice, sabi nga nila, sometimes rules are not sacrosanct. But itong nangyayari ngayon dito, ang publiko ang importante rito. Where does the Constitution emanate from? From the public, from the people of the Republic.
As presiding officer of the impeachment court. The duly elected presiding officer shall, under the same oath taken on May 18, 2026, immediately assume and exercise all powers, functions, duties, and prerogatives pertaining to or vested in a person presiding over the impeachment trial under the rules of procedure on impeachment trials, as amended, and shall give full effect to the powers inherent to the courts under Rule 135, Section 5 of the Rules of the Court.
Mr. President,
What is the pleasure of Senator Judge Cayetano?
Mr. President, I'm explaining my vote.
The lady has 2 minutes.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, my explanation includes a reminder to all of you na kung di nyo kasundo si Alan, malamang kasundo nyo ako. So, if sarado ang pag-iisip nyo na si Alan nagpaliwanag, ako naman ang magpapaliwanag. Pagbigyan nyo naman ako. But what I'm saying is not new from what Senator Alan Cayetano expressed. And I have here copies of the constitutional verbatim debate on this provision. And as Senator Alan read, sinabi ni Mr. Monsod, is it not understood that when the President of the Philippines is on trial, it is the only time when the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court will preside? Is it necessary to say that the Senate President will preside during all other times? Ulitin ko yung tanong, kasi yun ang tanong natin today. Is it necessary to say in the Constitution that the Senate President will preside during all other times? Ang sagot ni Mr. Davide, Mr. Presiding Officer, I precisely presented that because we have a distinction when it comes to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. But with that clarification, that in all other cases, it would be the President of the Senate who will preside, I withdraw the amendment. Kaya clear sa Constitution that in all other cases, the President of the Senate will decide. Wala, hindi ho applicable dito yung excluso unos. Hindi ko na-memorize yan kasi I graduated in 1991 and we took that up in 1987, but the phrase is, pag hindi kasama, excluded. Hindi po applicable yon. With all due
Presiding officer. Where the Constitution is
The lady
silent,
will explain her vote or make a manifestation.
it's a manifestation. Which,
The lady may proceed with
which
her
seems like an
manifestation. She has 2
explanation of
minutes.
vote. Thank you. Where the Constitution is silent, the intent of the framers should guide the choice of the presiding officer. Any departure from the traditional arrangement must be approached with caution, as it may place the validity and the legitimacy of the entire impeachment in doubt. Mr. Presiding Officer, I also respectfully place on record that there is a pending challenge before the Supreme Court involving the June 3rd Senate proceedings, including the authority of the body then that adopted Senate Resolution number 430. This manifestation is made to place on record that we are not yielding our position in the pending case and is without prejudice to the final determination of the Supreme Court. Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Senator Legarda. The presiding officer would like to make a statement. Sa mga ginagalangan kong kapwa Senator Judge, sa ating mga minamahal na kababayan, sa mga partido sa kaso na kabinbin ngayon sa Senado, isa pong maganda at pinagpalang hapon sa ating lahat. Sa araw na ito, muling gagampanan ng Senado ang isa sa mga pinakasagradong tungkuling iniatas ng saligang batas. Ang pag-upo natin bilang isang impeachment court para litisin at husgahan ang pangalawang Pangulo. Kinikilala ng ating saligang batas na may mga opisyal na may hawak ng kapangyarihan at pananagutan na napakabigat para sa kanila lamang itinakda ang impeachment bilang tanging paraan para sila ay panagutin. Article 11, Section 2 of the Constitution enumerates these officials: the President, the Vice President, the members of the Supreme Court, members of the Constitutional Commissions, and the Ombudsman. They are not ordinary public officers. According to the late former Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile, they hold, quote, the highest and most sensitive offices of government. They may be removed from office only upon conviction for offenses of the highest constitutional gravity: culpable violation of the Constitution, treason, bribery, graft and corruption, other high crimes, or betrayal of the public trust. Impeachment is a means to preserve constitutional government through the removal and disqualification, if so warranted, of an unfit official from a position of public trust. 5 opisyal pa lamang ang na-impeach ng Kamara de Representantes sa ating kasaysayan sa ilalim ng 1987 Constitution. Una, si dating Pangulong Joseph Estrada noong 2001 na ang paglilitis ay naungusan ng mga pangyayaring humantong sa EDSA 2. Ikalawa, si Ombudsman Mercy Gutierrez noong 2011 na nagbitiw bago pa man mabuksan ang kanyang paglilitis ng Senado. Ikatlo, si Chief Justice Renato Corona noong 2011 din na nilitis na patunayang nagkasala at inalis sa tungkulin ng impeachment court bilang punong mahistrado. Ikaapat, si dating COMELEC Chairman Andres Bautista noong 2017 bagamat nagbitiw siya sa pwesto bago pa man mapadala ang articles of impeachment sa Senado. At ikalima, si Vice President Sara Duterte noong 2025. Subalit ang nasabing articles of impeachment ay idineklara ng Korte Supremang null and void ab initio kung kaya't ito ay inarchive ng Senado. Siya ay muling na-impeach sa kasalukuyang taon at ngayon nahaharap sa paglilitis na ito. Ipinakikita lamang na maikling talaan ito na ang impeachment ay hindi isang pangkaraniwang kaganapan. Turing nga ng Korte Suprema, quote, "It is the most difficult and cumbersome mode of removing a public officer from office." Subalit, ang paglilitis na ito hindi lamang hindi pangkaraniwan, ito ay tunay na bukod tangi. Bakit? Una, si Vice Presidente Sara Duterte ang kauna-unahang opisyal na 2 beses na na-impeach ng mababang kapulungan. Pangalawa, siya ang kauna-unahang Vice Presidente na haharap sa paglilitis ng isang impeachment court at pangalawang opisyal lamang na halal ng sambayanan na sasailalim sa prosesong ito. Pangatlo, siya ay hinahalal ng may pinakamalaking mandatong pinagkaloob ng sambayanang Pilipino sa sinumang kandidato sa ating kasaysayan. Mahigit 32 milyon o 61% ng kabuuang boto para sa ikalawang Pangulo. Pang-apat, ang articles of impeachment laban sa kanya ay inendorso ng 277 na miyembro na kumakatawan sa ating mga mamamayan mula sa iba't ibang distrito at sektor at ng ating bansa, na katumbas ay mahigit 80% ng kabuuan ng Kamara de Representantes. Terminating an elected mandate before the end of its term is among the most drastic acts our constitutional democracy can undertake. This is why the trial must be guided with prudence, tempered by caution, and marked with unquestionable impartiality. We must avoid even the appearance of impropriety and observe the cold neutrality of an impartial judge at all times. May I therefore caution my fellow senator judges, the prosecutors, the respondent, and their respective counsels and witnesses to refrain from making any comments and disclosures to the public pertaining to the merits of this trial as mandated by the impeachment rules itself. Let us heed the words of the Supreme Court that said, "Impeachment is not a chance to settle political scores. It is not a stage for political theater or personal attacks, because when the focus shifts to the person rather than the alleged wrongdoing, the process loses its integrity." As presiding officer, I shall do my part to uphold the fairness and integrity of this process and shall see it through to its proper conclusion. At this point, I would like to thank my colleagues for their trust and confidence. I did not seek nor did I ask for this responsibility, but neither will I shirk from fulfilling this duty without fear or favor. This now brings me to the threshold questions that will guide the conduct of this trial and the rulings of the chair. First, what is the number of votes needed to convict the respondent? Second, what is the quantum of proof required to sustain a judgment of conviction or acquittal in these proceedings? Third, how strictly or liberally will this court apply the rules in resolving questions of procedure and evidence? On the first issue, the Constitution provides that no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of all the members of the Senate. With 24 members of the Senate, A literal interpretation of this means that conviction requires the affirmative vote of at least 16 senator judges. This literal interpretation finds direct support in the 2000 case of Bayan versus Zamora, which concerned the Senate's compliance with the two-thirds vote required to concur in a treaty. Despite having only 23 incumbent senators at that time, then Senator Gloria Macapagal Arroyo was elected as vice president. Therefore, there were only 23 senators. The court held the charter provides that the Senate shall be composed of 24 senators. Without a tinge of doubt, two-thirds of the figure, or not less than 16 members, is an unquestionable compliance with the requisite number of votes mentioned in Section 21 of Article 7. It behooves, therefore, all of us to observe the same fidelity with the Constitution in this trial, which affects not only the mere ratification of a treaty, but more so affects the substantial rights of the respondent, as well as the sovereign will of the people as expressed in the overwhelming mandate given to her. This is the prevailing law today, and whether we agree with it or not, we must abide by it. However, those who disagree are not without recourse, because this is without prejudice to the right of any party who holds a different view to seek judicial relief. And should the Supreme Court, who possesses the sole authority to interpret the Constitution by virtue of its power of judicial review, render a different ruling on this question other than what the chair has stated, this court and this representation shall faithfully abide by that ruling of the Supreme Court. On the question of quantum of proof, given that impeachment is a sui generis constitutional proceedings, the standards of proof that govern administrative, civil, and criminal proceedings do not apply. However, this does not mean that senator judges shall rely solely on their conscience in deciding this case. No less that the Supreme Court also said that, quote, decisions regarding whether to acquit or convict must be based upon clear charges supported by sufficiently clear and convincing evidence. Furthermore, let me be clear that the burden of proof in these proceedings rests upon the prosecution. It does not and will not shift. The respondent is afforded the presumption of innocence and has no obligation to disprove the charges against her. Finally, we turn to the application of the rules of court in these proceedings. Rule 1, Section 6 of the Rules of Courts provide that the rules shall be liberally construed in order to promote their objective of securing a just, speedy, and inexpensive disposition of every action and proceeding. We are also guided by the Supreme Court's Bench Book for Trial Judges, which reflects a long-standing principle of adjudication. In case of honest doubt about the admissibility of evidence, it is a better policy to rule in favor of admission and let the senator judges decide whether to give it little or no weight when deciding upon the case in the final outcome. But let me be clear. A liberal construction of the rules is not a license to ambush the opposing party, bypass due process, or introduce unverified evidence that would prejudice the fair and orderly conduct of this trial. Accordingly, consistent with the demands of due process, fair play, and the orderly administration of justice, the chair will construe the rules liberally so that, number one, the prosecutors may be able to adequately present their case, that the respondent may be able to rigorously test it. Number three, that the senator judges may be able to weigh the evidence for themselves. And fourth, so that the Filipino people may hear the whole and impartial truth regarding the allegations against the Vice President. Let us remember what our oath requires us, to do impartial justice according to the Constitution and the laws. Hindi po tayo nandito upang itaguyod ang anumang pampolitikal na adyenda. Hindi tayo narito upang paglingkuran ang kagustuhan ng alinmang panig. Narito tayo upang alamin ang katotohanan at sa pamamagitan nito, mapairal ang hustisyang walang kinikilingan. Ang tungkulin natin bilang mga hukom ay hindi maaaring talikuran. Sa gitna nito, batid ko ang mga problemang kinakaharap ng ating bayan na patuloy natin dapat pa ring pagtuunan ng buong pansin at hanapan ng solusyon. Tayo ay mga senador bago tayo umupo bilang mga hukom at mananatili tayong mga senador na patuloy na magsusumikap na tugunan ang mga pangailangan ng ating mga kababayan bilang Senado at hindi mababago ito. Kaya't aking hiling at dalangin na huwag sana malunod ang diwa ng pagkakaisang nagbigay sa atin, gaano mang katindi ang mga debate at pagtatalo sa hukumang ito. Dahil anuman ang magiging kalabasan ng paglilitis na ito, laging kinakailangan ang Senadong nagkakaisa. Dalangin ko po na sana pagkalubad tayo ng katatagan, karunungan, pagpapakumbaba at pag-unawa upang magampanan nating lahat ang ating tungkulin bilang mga hukom. Pagpalain na po lahat sana tayo ng poong may kapal. Maraming salamat at maganda. Counsel for the prosecution for an additional 3 minutes should you so need it. You may proceed, ma'am.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honors, fellow Filipinos, good afternoon. As we begin today the impeachment trial of the Vice President, and in the days ahead, this court will undertake its constitutional task of receiving and weighing the parties' evidence, and ultimately to decide whether these pieces of evidence justify either a judgment of conviction or acquittal, guided only by its members' conscience and their solemn oath to do impartial justice. The present undertaking of this court, therefore, not only carries the weight of the Constitution, but also the imprint of our nation's history, because the Filipino people have shown that they never forget. We, as a nation, never forget. But why is the act of remembering important? What does it matter to our history and to ordinary Filipinos? Because in this trial, the prosecution proposes that we unseat the Vice President elected to office by more than 32 million Filipino people, more than the number of votes cast for the sitting president, and much greater than any of the votes secured by each of the members of the House of Representatives who now are here to prosecute her and seek to undo this people's choice. Sa makatwid, ang malinaw na layunin sa likod ng mga paratang na ito ay ang pagpapatalsik sa isang vice-presidenteng inihalal ng mahigit 32 milyong Pilipino at bunga ng kanilang malayang pagpapasya. Whatever one's political persuasion is, the reality is that the prosecution now comes before this court to remove a vice president chosen by an overwhelming number of the electorate. You all have heard the prosecution say repeatedly that this is because they seek accountability, that the people have a right to hold their leaders accountable. This is not a matter of debate. Indeed, the people have a right to demand accountability from their leaders. What we have yet to hear from the prosecution, however, is this. When the Constitution declared under Section 1, Article 11, that public office is a public trust and that public officers and employees must at all times be accountable to the people, serve them with utmost responsibility, integrity, loyalty, and efficiency, act with patriotism and justice, and lead modest lives, the Constitution does not only speak to the Vice President. It also demands the same standards from the prosecutors. Being public officers themselves, the public prosecutors and the members of the House of Representatives are also held to the same constitutional standard. And so we must remember what history tells us. This is not the first time that members of the House of Representatives have attempted to remove the Vice President, and in a manner not compliant with the Constitution. In a July 25, 2025 decision, the Supreme Court unanimously declared in Duterte versus House of Representatives, GR numbers 278353 and 278359, that the impeachment proceedings in the House of Representatives were tainted with grave abuse of discretion, rendering the articles of impeachment that the House transmitted last year to the Senate as void ab initio. Early this year, the Supreme Court unanimously denied with finality the House of Representatives' motion for reconsideration of that decision, with a reminder that while impeachment is a powerful democratic process to call out corruption and grave abuse, impeachment can be abused, and that impeachment should never be abused to maintain the hegemonic dominance of greed by shaming those who occupy high government positions into preventing them from doing what they were sworn to do. But perhaps the most enduring reminder of the Supreme Court that we must not forget in the entire course of this trial is that, in the words of the court, the rule of law that does justice is our lodestar, and that justice includes accountability. Justice includes fairness. Without fairness, there is abuse. This fairness is what our democracy is all about. It is in light of these reminders that we draw attention to certain fundamental legal principles that we think we must not forget throughout this trial. Mga batayang prinsipyo na dapat nating tandaan sa buong panahon ng paglilitis na ito, anuman ang ating kulay o politika. If we are to be true and honest to our proclaimed values, such as the pursuit of accountability, justice, and integrity in our system of government, then we must remain possessed of an unyielding resolve to ensure that the trial and judgment in this case are done in accordance with the command of the Constitution, the majesty of the law, and the discipline required by the rules. Otherwise, those who stand in sanctimonious judgment of the Vice President will send a clear message that the law can be bent when it suits the convenience of the powerful, and that justice can be sacrificed at the altar of partisan interests. Mahalagang tandaan ang mahigpit na paalala ng ating Korte Suprema. Impeachment is not a purely political proceeding. It is primarily a legal, political, and constitutional mechanism. Ibig sabihin, kailangang naayon sa batas at konstitusyon ang anumang proseso nito. According to the Constitution, it is the Senate that shall have the sole power to try and decide all cases of impeachment. This power is not shared. The Constitution gives no other body, department, tribunal, agency, or a mere committee of any of these institutions the power to try an impeachment case. The House merely initiates, the Senate tries. Yet, we have seen the Committee on Justice conduct what its chairperson, the lead prosecutor in this case, described as a mini trial, which, as we all had witnessed, became a vast fishing expedition of alleged evidence that were not even part of the impeachment complaints under its consideration and which the respondent accused was made to answer. In that mini trial, we saw how the purported pieces of evidence were curated to construct a narrative against the Vice President even before this case reaches trial. The articles of impeachment presented before this court as an exercise of the House's power to initiate impeachment cases are therefore, in sober truth, the product of an impermissible intrusion of clear constitutional boundaries. Over the course of the impeachment trial, the prosecution will attempt to convince this court and the court of public opinion that the allegations in the articles of impeachment are supported by materials they obtained during their mini trial and that evidence exists to sustain a judgment of conviction. They will claim that the notices of suspension and disallowance issued by the COA and the COA decision denying the Vice President's appeal of that disallowance support their accusations, with the release of that decision by the COA conveniently timed and coinciding with the committee hearings. They will claim that the certifications of the PSA confirm their allegation that recipients of the confidential funds do not exist, even though they listed one Mary Grace Piatos in their pre-trial brief as among their witnesses, or that the liquidation of the confidential funds in a span of 11 days was allegedly swift as to invite suspicion. The prosecution will assert that the supposed NBI findings of similar signatures across a number of acknowledgement receipts submitted to the COA, are supportive of their conclusion that the disbursements of the confidential funds were irregular. What the prosecution avoided informing the public so far are these: that it was the then Secretary of the Department of Budget and Management, Amena Pangandaman, who issued a memorandum for the President through Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin on October 18, 2022, recommending the approval of the Office of the Vice President's request for confidential funds. That the Office of the President did in fact approve that recommendation of the DBM through a memorandum from the Executive Secretary dated November 28, 2022, and signed by the former Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin by order of the President. That on December 13, 2022, the DBM issued a special allotment order number SARO-BMB-C-22-001-2004, signed by former Secretary Amena Pangandaman, to cover the request of financial assistance, subsidy, and confidential funds of the OVP that, notwithstanding the impending end of the fiscal year, the confidential funds were nonetheless released to the OVP on December 20, 2022, under this documented approval process. That the COA decision is far from being final, that there is a pending motion for reconsideration of that decision, that, assuming arguendo, the COA denies that MR today, or while this trial is ongoing, as could plausibly happen under the circumstances, the respondent accused still has legal remedies available under the law and rules and can file a petition to question the validity of any forthcoming resolution of the COA on the MR under Rule 64 via petition for certiorari under Rule 65 of the Rules of Court, and more importantly, that nothing in the notice of disallowance or COA decision states any findings of supposed misuse of confidential funds as confirmed by attorney Gloria Camora when she was asked on this point during the committee hearing on April 14, 2026. Across all other articles, the prosecution will lay a landscape of what it deems to be their evidence in support of their speculations and conclusions. We are not strangers to all these accusations, precisely because this was not the first time these narratives were foisted into the minds of the general public. We have heard the same tales and stories of these accusations since 2024, when the House conducted its Quadcom hearings and most recently the mini trial of its Committee on Justice. But what we must not forget amid all these accusations is the fundamental legal principle that the burden of proof never shifts. The burden of proof never shifts. He who accuses must prove his allegations with evidence that meets not only the degree of proof required, but also meets the evidentiary standards of admissibility, credibility, relevance, materiality, and competence. We therefore should not lose sight of the core principle that the burden of proof is on the prosecution, and unless it discharges that burden, the accused need not even offer evidence on her behalf, and she will be entitled to an acquittal. This is the law then. This is the law now. And the underlying principle for this burden of proof is simple. Under our Constitution, every accused is presumed innocent until proven otherwise. An accused has in her favor the presumption of innocence, which the Bill of Rights guarantees. This also brings to fore the reality that, in the words of the Supreme Court in People versus Pagal, the individual citizen is but a speck of particular molecule vis-a-vis the vast and overwhelming powers of government, and his only guarantee against oppression and tyranny are his fundamental liberties under the Bill of Rights, which shield him in times of need. Sa madaling salita, kinikilala ng ating saligang batas na sa bawat paglilitis, ang isang individual ay nahaharap sa malalim at napakalaking makinarya ng buong Estado. At ang tanging sandigan lamang niya laban sa anumang pang-aabuso ng kapangyarihan ay ang kanyang mga batayang karapatan sa ilalim ng ating konstitusyon. Kaya't mahalagang linawin na sa gitna ng pagtatangkang ikondisyon ang kaisipan ng mamamayang Pilipino at sa gitna ng walang humpay na komentaryo sa mga pampublikong espasyo, wala pang maituturing na anumang ebidensya o alegasyon na napapatunayan ng prosekusyon sa simpleng dahilan na ang bawat ebidensya ay kailangang dumaan muna sa pagsuri ng korteng may tanging kapangyarihan sa ilalim ng ating salita. Paglilitis at pagsusuri ng korteng may tanging kapangyarihan sa ilalim ng ating saligang batas. Higit sa lahat, ang anumang paglilitis ay kailangang naayon sa itinatakda ng ating batas at konstitusyon at hindi lamang sa kagustuhan ng iilang may hawak ng kapangyarihan. One might ask, why is it important that we must not forget these basic principles? The ruling of the Supreme Court tells us why. The Bill of Rights applies to the entire impeachment process because inasmuch as our court recognizes that impeachment is a political process, it reminds us that it is not a purely political process but a legal and constitutional mechanism. Thus, if we are to uphold the rule of law, serve justice, and invoke the accountability mechanism, then this court and we as a people must guarantee that all efforts to hold our leaders accountable must be done right. This we must not forget. I thank the court and the public for the privilege of your time. May God bless our country.